Today I'm going to be covering all that you need to know about basic verb tenses in Korean, from present, past, to future tense. All of your confusion about these tenses will be gone by the end of this video. Now, in order to get onto present, past, and future tense, we gotta cover some quick conjugation basics. So just stick with me. First, unlike the Romance languages, in Korean you don't have to consider the subject of the sentence when conjugating verbs. It's so nice, you guys. For example, in English, you say I eat, and then she eats. However, in Korean, the verb stays the same in both cases. If you want to say I eat, it's 저는 먹어요. If you want to say she eats, it's 그녀는 먹어요. 먹어요, 먹어요. Same verb. All we need to do, you see, is just convert the verb stem. That's it. This verb stem, this is the basic way of how you'll see it in a dictionary. It's like the dictionary version of the verb. For example, we have 먹다 means to eat. 먹다. 달리다 means to run. 달리다. And 보다 is to see. 보다. To conjugate a Korean verb, the first step is to separate that verb stem from that 다 ending. So once we do that, that's when we can start conjugating. Now we can move on to conjugations in the present tense. Yay! We're gonna start off with some good news because conjugating verb stems into the present tense is actually really easy, especially if you compare it to other languages. All you have to do is drop that 다 ending from each verb stem like I was talking about and add the verb ending that goes with the formality level that you want to use. Today we are just going over polite low formality, by the way, which usually ends in yo. For the polite low formality in the present tense, you take the verb stem plus ayo or oyo. What determines whether it's ayo or oyo, you may ask? It's the final vowel. The final vowel determines whether you use ayo or oyo in the end. Okay, remember this. You use ayo, ayo, if the last vowel of the verb is a or o. For example, 볶다 equals to fry. 볶다. The last vowel we have there is o. So, to make this into the present tense, we take away 다, so it's just 볶, and then we add ayo. 볶아요. I fry. Simple present tense. There you go. We use oyo if the last vowel of the verb is anything else. Anything but a or o. You're good. You can use oyo. So easy, guys, right? So easy. Let's use my favorite verb stem. 먹다, to eat. 먹다. Is the last vowel an a? No. Is the last vowel an o? No, it's o. 먹다. So we just take away the verb stem 다. We're left with 먹. We add oyo. 먹어요. Another thing to keep in mind with this is if the verb stem actually ends in a vowel, the a or o that you add to it, like ayo, oyo, that you add to it, combined with the previous syllable. Let's go through a few examples. It's really simple, I promise. Just stick with me. So here we have 가다, which means to go. 가다. So let's go through the steps of making it present tense. First, we take away the 타, right? Take away the 타, so we're left with 가. This ends with an a sound, right? 가. So do we use ayo or oyo to make it present tense? It ends with a, so we use ayo. So if we're doing 가 plus a plus yo, you just combine a with a. 가요. So it's not like 가아요, right? That would be really weird. It's just 가요. That's what I mean when I'm saying you're combining the syllables. Let's try this again. So we have 보다. Step one, take away the 타. Now we're left with 보, right? It ends in a vowel. And it's o, right? So do we combine it with ayo or oyo? It's ayo, yes, because it's an o or a, right? So the way that we combine 보 plus ayo is combine it into 파요. 파요. We don't say 보아요. No. That just sounds weird and it's lengthy. We just combine it into one syllable. Okay? 파요. Like that. One more example because I know this can be a bit confusing. 쏘다 means to stand. Step one, take away the 타. Then we're left with 쏘. It ends in a vowel, right? 오. First of all, do we use ayo or oyo for this? Good, we use oyo. Yes. So, 쏘 plus oyo equals what? Just 쏘요, not 쏘어요, right? That would be weird. You combine the syllables. 쏘요, I stand. Before we move on, let's talk about a quick exception, which is hada. Hada is a verb that you will hear all the time. Hada means to do in Korean, but it conjugates a little bit differently than other verbs. Instead of it becoming hayo, which is what you might think, right, because it ends with an a, it actually becomes heyo, which you've probably heard some Korean heyo, like 좋아해요, 사랑해요, right? It just becomes he, informal, or heyo, more formal. So just remember that. Hada becomes heyo. Just an exception. By the way, if you're liking this video so far, don't forget to give it a thumbs up to let me know. Now, before we do on, let's do a quick quiz to review so you can see how you're doing so far. First, let's take the verb 가다, which means to go. What does this look like in the simple present tense? Do you remember? I went over this. It's 가요. Why? Because the last vowel in there is a. And again, we combine syllables, right? So it's 가요, not 가요. 가요. I go. Now let's practice with my favorite verb stem again, 먹다. What is 먹다 in the present tense? It's 먹어요, because the last vowel is 먹, right? 먹어요. It's not 아요, it's 어요 that we add to it. Let me know how you guys did in the comments below. Now we're gonna move on real quick to past tense. To conjugate verbs into the past tense is still pretty simple, don't worry. Since you've now learned present tense, it's a very similar conjugation that you do. We just are adding something different to it. Look at the last vowel in the verb stem. If the verb ends in o or a, you simply add 왔어요 to make it past tense. If the vowel isn't a or o that you end with, then you add 왔어요. Just like with the present tense verbs, some verbs that end in a vowel will condense. For example, 가다 plus 왔어요 equals 갔어요, not 가왔어요. You know, you're just combining those syllables. Okay, so the polite low formality, which is what we've been using here, is the following equation. Make sure to remember this for past tense. This is the equation that you need. You have the verb plus 왔어요 or 왔어요. Again, depending on the last vowel in the verb stem. Let's review this with a little quiz. So this one's kind of tricky, but we have 하다, which equals to do. And remember, in present tense, it's 해요, right? In the present tense. So how do you think we would convert it into the past tense? So it's 했어요. We drop 다, and because this is more regular and it's just 해요, we just make it 했어요 to make it past tense. 했어요. All right, let's move on to some more easier ones. 보다 means to see. 보다. What would this look like in the simple past tense? It's 봤어요. Again, we're combining syllables because it ends with the vowel o. So that means we add 왔어요 to it. 봤어요, not 보았어요. 봤어요. Finally, my favorite 먹다, which means to eat. How do we turn this into the past tense and say I ate? It's 먹었어요. We drop the 다 and see that the final vowel that's used in the verb stem is not a or o. So we add 없어요 to 먹었어요. I ate. Okay, let's take a quick breather right now. I'm just gonna talk about how to keep these in your mind because you can learn these, right? It's pretty easy to learn them, but to actually review them and use them in real life, you're gonna need to expose yourself to all of these conjugations being used in real life. You can study from a textbook as much as you want, but if you're not gonna see it in the context that it's used in, it's gonna be really hard to remember it. That's why to all of my friends who are studying Korean and having these sorts of issues, I recommend to them to check out FluentU, because what FluentU does is it literally teaches you Korean with real world media. It literally turns these into bite-sized lessons. You can find the whole transcripts, you can practice with quizzes, you can make your own flashcard sets. There's even a video dictionary, but you can just press on a word and see multiple ways of it used in real life with different video segments. Now, because you're watching this video, I have a 2-week free subscription in the description box below. It'll give you 2 weeks absolutely free of FluentU, and I would really love if you checked it out and let me know how it worked for you. All right, break time is up. Now let's move on to the final one for the day, future tense in Korean. Are you ready? Let's do it. So future tense is a little more tricky than the other two conjugations. I'm sorry guys, but I'm gonna make it simple for you, don't worry. There are actually multiple ways of expressing future tense, but today we're just gonna focus on the simple future tense. It is like the most common way to talk about the future tense. So to make the future tense, you're dropping 다 again from the verb stem, and you're adding if the verb ends in a vowel and if the verb ends in a consonant. So here's the formula that you need to remember for this. The formula for simple future verb tense in polite low formality is verb plus or 거예요. Let's take our verb stem 하다 to practice this. When it comes to the future tense, 하다 is just like any of the other verbs. We don't say 해올 거예요. No. So we take away 다, right? We end with 하. Since 하 ends in a vowel, we're adding 거예요 to it. So we have 할 거예요. Not too bad, right? 할 거예요. Which means I will do it. Let's review a little bit more with this quiz. Here we have 가다 again to go. How do you think we convert this to the future tense based on the formula that I gave you? It's 갈 거예요. Because we take away the verb stem 다, right? We're ending with 가. It ends in a vowel, so we just add 거예요. 갈 거예요. Now let's use my favorite verb stem, 먹다. So what's the first step? We take away 다, right? Now we have 먹, right? This does not end in a vowel, right? So what this will look like in the future tense is 먹을 거예요. 먹을 거예요. Does that make sense? I hope that helps you understand the future tense a little bit more. And again, this is the most common way to talk about future tense, so be sure to remember that formula. If you want to review everything that I went over in this video, be sure to download the PDF that I made just for you with everything in there in the description below. So you can review it all, remember those formulas, and practice. Now, if you want to see these verbs used in practice, be sure to check out that video right over there. I go over some verb forms in the movie Train to Busan, so you're literally learning verbs with zombies, and I include a lot of different examples and different verbs in there. Go over there and see if you can convert those verb stems into present, past, and future tense. I think you'll really enjoy the video, you guys, so I will go ahead and I'll see you over there for our next lesson.